Mr. Chairman?
Keen to hear Dr. Megan Woods.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm very keen to speak. And, Mr. Chairman, I want to speak to my supplementary order paper, which is Part 2, Clause 10, which inserts a new Clause 10.2, new Section 35(1) FA, to be very specific about it, Mr. Chairman, which specifically what that does is in this clause, after petroleum or engine fuels, on page 5, line 8, it inserts other than biofuel or biofuel blend as defined in the Customs and Excise Act 1996. And Mr. Chairman, the purpose of this is to send a very clear signal about the importance of biofuels and the importance of transitioning away from a complete reliance on fossil fuels to different types of energy. It's a different way of thinking about New Zealand's energy security, as my colleague Claire Curran talked about in her contribution on this bill. Because one of the things that we do have to be prepared for is the fact that if we are going to encourage a biofuel industry in New Zealand, that we have to have government behind it. Now, my colleague Stuart Nash has talked about the very low contribution in reality that this excise puts on fuels. But what exempting biofuels and biofuel blends from this levy does is shores up the very tight economics that exist around the viability of the biofuel market at this stage. And what we know from history and from the companies that are commercially involved in biofuels, that every few cents or every part of a cent matters about whether or not we can have biofuel as a real alternative to fossil fuels. And Mr. Chairman, when last in government, Labor took its responsibilities around encouraging a biofuels industry very seriously. Unfortunately, a lot of the measures that we were put in place were repealed by the current government, but we'd like to use this opportunity to send a clear message that once again we do want to look to our future. We want to look to a future that is grounded in the 21st century, a future that acknowledges that our planet is changing and that we need to do things very different. So what Labor did in 2008 was place an obligation that fuel retailers ensured that a small percentage of the fuel that they sold was indeed biofuel. And this provided certainty for biofuel companies who are considering whether or not to invest in New Zealand or whether or not there'd be a market for their product. So, Mr. Chairman, this is in much the same vein. It's around providing that incentive and it's around providing that certainty for this to be done. The bioenergy strategy prepared by the Bioenergy Association indicated that 30% of our transport fuels could be from biomass by 2040. Now, this is quite a long range. We're looking out to our future, but we really could be moving towards 30% at this date. But it does need encouragement, and we do need to signal very strongly that this is the kind of future that we are looking. Some research has actually indicated that we could actually be looking a whole lot more aspirational around this. Scion, who our Crown Research Institute, our Wood Crown Research Institute, that has done a lot of work in use of the biomass from wood and from forestry products, has shown that long term we theoretically could do 100% of our fuels from our biomass. Now, of course, as Gareth Hughes pointed out in his contribution, that we do have to ensure that we're not infringing on our food supply in our rush to the biomass to produce fuels. But what we do have to realise is there really is an opportunity here for New Zealand. There is not only an opportunity to do better for our planet, but there is also an opportunity and a commercial opportunity for New Zealand companies to do very well in this. And what we do know in New Zealand is that we're very well placed to do this because of the amount of biomass that we produce, because we are primarily a primary producing country, and that we do have quite a large waste stream from our biomass as well that can be utilised. And what's more, that New Zealand has a flourishing biological sector and a biotech sector that has become very skilled, which really could make this industry succeed in New Zealand. because the reality at this stage is that the economics of producing biofuels or biofuel blends, whichever you like, are likely to be carried through by the co-products that are extracted through the production of making these biofuels. And we have a very strong history and a very strong record of a number of very innovative companies in New Zealand who have made very good, Mr Chairman.
Dr Megan Woods.
Thank you, Mr Chairman, who have made very good use of very strong science in this area, who have made very good use of very strong knowledge and have indeed become some of our biotech success stories that we're all very proud of. But it's not only small startups who are seeing the opportunities here, that in fact just last year that Z Energy, one of the largest energy players in our marketplace, announced plans to spend 21 million on a biodiesel plant at Wiri. In order to process tallow from the meat industry. So again, what we have is the utilisation of a waste stream from another of our primary industries. And Mr Chairman, I think what we see is that we see real opportunity here for New Zealand. We see an opportunity for New Zealand to move away from a sole reliance on fossil fuels, which I think there is, maybe even across on the government benches, a growing realisation that that is what the 21st century is going to need to be about, and that we are going to have to look at different ways of doing things. And Mr Chairman, it may be rather symbolic, but we have the opportunity in this piece of legislation to exempt biofuels and biofuel blends from this extra levy to make the economics of it stack up just that little bit more. To make it something that really is a goer, something that we can give a real opportunity to and invest not only in our innovative companies, but also in our future and transition ourselves into what we know is coming. So, Mr Chairman, I would like to hear the Minister and the Chair respond to our suggestion in the supplementary order paper number 45 that we do exclude biofuels and biofuel blends from this. I'd like to hear the Minister talk about what she thinks that if this isn't the correct way to do it, what the correct kind of signals to give to this industry are, what the plans the government has to ensure that we are preparing for a future in the 21st century. And if the government were not to support this, I would like to hear from the Minister and the Chair why they will not support this, why they will not make this very symbolic gesture that we've already heard from colleagues that have spoken, that in reality this is a very low level. And at the moment we have very low levels of biofuels. So we're not talking about great revenue streams here, but what we're doing is talking about backing our future. Backing our companies that excel in this area and backing our planet for the 21st century. We know that this is what the future has to bring, and I'd like to see the government come on board and support a measure that is about planning for that future. Thank you very much, Mr Chairman.
I